Most people think you need a long list of machines and exercises to make true progress, but the truth is a single exercise can replace almost all of them. And it's been a foundation of my training for over a decade now. So let me show you today why the pull-up is the single most powerful exercise you can work on and how to get there no matter your level. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. Now, working on pull-ups has become an absolute obsession for me. I learned to do my first pull-up by the time I was 15, and I continued working on them pretty much every single day, to the point where when I joined Ninja Warrior Austria and went to the casting, I did not only more pull-ups than anyone else, I did so many pull-ups that they told me that I had to stop because I had already reached the maximum of acceptable pull-ups they can use to give me points for.
16, Come on! 18! Ja, komm, komm! 18! 30! Perfekt! Super!
And while most people know that pull-ups will work your biceps and your lats or your back musculature the way we will be doing them, especially if we go through the full progression, you will have every single muscle fiber in your upper body all the way down to your legs. It will help you with posture correction from sitting like a goblin all day long. It'll have massive carryover to any other sports exercises you do in general. It'll help you with your mobility, especially your shoulder and arm mobility. It'll massively help you with core stabilization as well, and it'll help you build a peak physique when it comes to aesthetics. But enough of the benefits, let's go through the progression first. We have 4 preliminary exercises that are gonna make your progression so much easier, so much more effective, and way faster. Starting with the passive or decompressive hang, relaxing into this hanging position, decompressing pretty much every single joint and vertebrae in our body, not only helping us with the necessary grip strength and forearm strength to be able to do multiple pull-ups and to grab onto the bar for longer periods, but also helping us with all kinds of quality of life benefits, from shoulder mobility to tightness in our lumbar spine, through decompression and stretch, and of course the active hang, where we are holding full body tension in a somewhat elevated dead hang position, so we can start building the necessary tension and core strength to not be flopping around like a leaf when we're trying to pull up. And this moves us to the 2 preliminary pull-up variations. The first being the classic or symmetrical scapular pull-up, learning how to adduct and depress as well as abduct and elevate our scapula or our shoulder blades, which will be very important when it comes to learning how to do real pull-up movements. So we have the necessary control over our scapular and shoulder musculature way before we get into the more advanced variations and then have to correct what we didn't learn before. Taking it to the next level, the asymmetrical or unilateral scapular pull-up, now also adding scapular upward rotation, which in turn will help us with all the more advanced or unilateral pull-up exercises, which do require a massive amount of both strength as well as control in those muscles so we can have good form. Now, progressing from those preliminaries, you have 2 choices, both respectively with their own pros and cons. You can either start working on the reverse barbell row to start building the necessary strength for pull-ups with an exercise that is a little bit easier to master, with this one having the immense benefit of being very easily scalable because all you need to do is change your angle to the bar to make the exercise harder by elevating your feet more and more. Or the second option, which is what I would recommend, which is using a resistance band for assistance so you can jump into the pull-ups themselves right ahead and start mastering the form way before you have the strength to do an actual full controlled pull-up without assistance. Now, I'll add some resistance band tips at the very end of the video, but for now we'll go through the rest of the progression with your very first pull-up goal being an underhand classic biceps dominant pull-up, chest all the way to the bar and back into a complete dead hang, meaning now we elevate our scapula just as we learned before we depress and pull up to our chest once more. This chin-up is the easiest pulling exercise you can start doing. It will help you build the necessary strength in your biceps, a tiny bit more strength in your back, which you will need for the next level. The latissimus dominant overhand wide grip pull up, chest all the way up, and we always start in a dead hang position, scapular adduction and depression, pulling up straight, chest to the bar, and reversing with full body tension. And here comes the really important part. Ignore how many repetitions, ignore how many sets you can do, and work on your form. Perfect your form. Make videos of yourself. See how straight you are. See how far up you get to the bar, and please correct everything you can think of before you advance to the next stuff, because that is going to make it so much easier and so much faster to progress, but also reduce the risk of injury and fucking up your body and learning things the wrong way, because that will be very hard to unlearn. And a good rule of thumb is, once you are strong enough to do 5 biceps dominant pull-ups, chances are you are strong enough to do 1 latissimus dominant pull-up. Once you can do 5 of those, you can probably move on to the next stage. Now, if you've done your preliminaries, this next pull-up variation will be much easier to go through, because now it's time to actually advance to the very first unilateral pulling motion, which is the archer pull-up. And now, as we said before, half of that is basically the single-sided scapular pull-up. Once you are very good at doing this, you are halfway there. And combining the unilateral scapular pull-up with the classic pull-up will help you build not only the necessary strength, but also the necessary control to do full archer pull-ups. And since archer pull-ups are always more dominant on one side, that means that now we can build even more strength through progressive overload, because one side is carrying more weight than the other one and is doing more work. And we have massive amounts of shoulder inclusion as well, and the tiniest bit of chest inclusion, because that extended arm is pushing down to hold us up here. And if you were too weak in your shoulders or chest, you would not be able to hold this position. Which means that now we have rounded up our chest, our deltoids, in conjunction with our arms and our backs, helping us build that aesthetic physique that you see in most calisthenics practitioners. And this moves us to my second favorite pull-up variation. Not only is this one of the most impressive calisthenics moves ever, it is also one of the most holistic, basically targeting every single muscle fiber in your entire body, through your core, all the way down to your quads, because now we will be combining what we learned with the classic latissimus pull-up with some of what we learned with shoulder, chest, and biceps inclusion by moving laterally with the head above the bar, requiring massive amounts of strength in our shoulders and chest, our triceps and biceps, our latissimus and core, our spinal erectors, and our glutes to keep our body straight and from jiggling around. Yes, this single pull-up variation can replace 90% of your upper body exercises. We've got our delts, we've got our traps, we've got our core, we've got our chest, we've got our back, pretty much everything in a single movement. And the best part about this one, you will be building massive amounts of mind-muscle connection, because all of those more complex unilateral movement patterns, where all of those muscles and our stabilizers move in conjunction with each other, will help us build far more strength and far more control over our body than any isolation exercise will ever be able to. And now we've got one more variation before we move on to the tips and tricks, the creme de la creme, the king of pull-ups, putting together everything we learned today, the circular pull-up, starting with an archer, moving laterally at the top of the bar, reversing an archer on the other side, and then of course repeating, going through the entire circular motion into the other direction. And now there is not a single muscle fiber not included in this pull, all the way to down here, as we said, including our glutes, so we can stay fully extended and hold the necessary tension to not lose control in this pulling motion. Unilateral pull means massive amounts of latissimus inclusion. Sideways movement at the top means massive amount of chest, shoulder, and arm inclusion. Reversing, once again, a lot of latissimus, and then into the other direction, so we have full control both to the left and to the right. Now, one more thing you can do when it comes to your variations is staggering your pull-ups, staggering your grip. And that means combining overhand with underhand, for instance, in a very close grip. Combining overhand with underhand in a very wide grip. Combining underhand and overhand in a unilateral diagonal pull, And most importantly, playing around with your grip width to see where you are stronger, to see where you are weaker and where you need more work, and to find out which of those are the most fun for you so you can start adding them to your repertoire. Now, our next tip will have to do with form, and this is where our resistance band comes into play. If you are still a beginner and if you have not yet built the necessary strength and control to do a classic pull-up without any assistance, use a band. Very importantly, place both legs in it. Get into the right grip position, which, if you are a total beginner, will be the underhand for the chin up. And what's very important here is you want to be as strict as possible, because this is all about form and building the necessary mind-muscle connection and learning how it feels to go for the exact movement before we start reducing the thickness of the band. And that goes for every single variation. You will move on to latissimus dominant assisted pull-ups, after which you will move on to assisted archer pull-ups as strict as you can, after which you will move on to assisted typewriter pull-ups, like so, and so on and so forth. Now, keep in mind, the thicker your resistance band, the more assistance you will have. And the second thing is, the lower in the movement you are, the more assistance you will have, which means that the more we move up, the less the band will help us, which is very important when you are learning stuff like moving laterally above the bar, because here you have zero assistance from this band, which also means that you will start with a very thick one, reduce the thickness as you progress until you can do your intended pull-up with the minimum amount of assistance from a band. And here, once you can do 5 to 10 repetitions, you are probably strong enough to do it without assistance, and that goes for all of those variations. And since your body has already mastered the necessary form, you will acclimate to the strength requirements much faster and be able to do a really good formed pull-up from the very beginning. Final tip, and this will help you so much more than having motivation or discipline, and that is having fun when you are working on this. The pull-up is an amazing exercise. Mastering it gives you a sense of empowerment and success. Number one, you need to be able to enjoy this, because it is fun to unlock new skills. It is fun to become stronger, to have more mastery over your body, and this will carry on to all kinds of other fitness aspects and fitness goals you might have. If you can take the variations and the intensity and the frequency that you deem to be the most fun and that you actually enjoy, you will progress much faster. You will barely need any motivation. You will barely need any discipline, because you actually do want to go through those movements, you do want to do that training, and you do want to see yourself progress, not because you want to show it to someone else, but because you enjoy the process of doing it and the process of learning how to pull up and going through those variations and becoming stronger is what is fun about pull-ups. And that is why I am so obsessed with them. And hopefully this triggered something in you which also makes you just as obsessed, so we can pull up together. And with this, you have all the necessary tools to become a pull-up master and to be seated at the council of pull-up extremists just like myself, while building that amazing strength, that amazing calisthenics physique that you always wanted. Which means that the only thing that's missing now is for you to like the video if you truly liked it, and please come on, subscribe. We do stuff like that almost every single day. So until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo. Peace out.